Ahoy! This video is going to be quite long and possibly boring, but since there are so many people out there who don't really understand what mission wars are for and how things work there, I've decided to make a guide about it. If you're curious about certain things, you can find a list in the video's description with some timestamps to jump quickly, otherwise just watch the whole thing and try not to fall asleep. So first of all, what is war exactly? Well, it's basically the most popular and biggest PvP feature of Cabal. As the name Nation War suggests, it's the two nations fighting a massive battle with up to 125 players on each side at the same time. With the scenario quest at level 52 and later on at 95, a player can choose which nation to fight for. That choice determines whether you get a badass blue or a lame pink title. Since it's a PvP feature, it's also categorized into multiple tiers based on player level to bring some balance to it. Winning a war can be achieved by one nation overpowering the other. That means they need to capture all bases on the whole map or reach a higher score by the end of the time limit. Bases range from small to large, and there's another that I'm going to call headquarters. The bigger the base is, the more powerful is Guardian, which can attack enemies within its range but won't damage members of its own nation. HQs are not protected by Guardians. Instead, they have their Sages Ensign, which cannot attack but has greatly increased health and is located in an area closed by gates that only their respective nation's members can pass through. How and when do you join wars? Actually, wars are separate channels that are accessible through the channel selection screen. However, they aren't always available. There's a schedule, generally it's every 2 hours during the day, but a few of them before dawn are disabled. Also, when a war is about to begin, you get a notification that allows you to join if you click it. By the way, joining war costs a small amount of money too. TG type of wars last 40 minutes and MC types last 30 minutes, and you can join at any time during that. Well, actually there are a couple of restrictions, like you cannot join in the last 5 minutes of TG and the last 3 minutes of MC, nor if the war is already over. So what's TG and MC? Think of those as two different maps. TG is the one available at all levels and MC is available at level 200 only. The goal in each is the same, but there are some extra mechanics to earn score in MC, but I'm gonna talk about that later. Okay, that's all cool, but how does it work and what do I do in there? Alright, once you do join a war, you appear in the lobby. That's the place where people usually create parties, exchange buffs, stock up on potions and whatnot. The actual war begins within 5 minutes. However, if your nation has more participating players than the other one, the remaining people will have to stay inside the lobby until either enough people join the other side or enough people from your side relog. Once the lobby time is over and you aren't on the waiting list, you automatically get transferred to the war map. The same happens if you join the channel after the initial 5 minutes. From that moment, it's game on. Everyone in the opposite nation is automatically marked as an enemy, so you can target and attack them without any penalty. Their names are also hidden and transformed into numbers, but if you regularly attend wars, that won't stop you from knowing who they are. Bringer and Guardian players are an exception, but more about them later. So it's time to either work on your score or help your nation achieve victory. How to gain score? Well, there are two types of score that are worth gaining. Personal score and nation score. Personal is directly related to what you do, dealing and receiving damage, building towers and guardians, and healing others all increase it. Depending on the amount of score you reach by the end of the war, you get different rewards, which I will explain soon. Nation score is increased by capturing bases, defeating enemy players, building and destroying towers and guardians, and in MC by farming gold coins. How do we win? By capturing bases. When the war begins, each nation has its HQ and all the bases are neutral. That means anyone can attack their guardians, but the nation that delivers more damage gets to capture it. To capture a base, its guardian must be destroyed and the core clicked by anyone. This makes that base belong to your nation and mark it as blue on the map. Enemy bases are marked as red. If the entire map turns blue or red, then the war is instantly over. This is what cold game means. If that doesn't happen, then there's a time limit at the end of which the nation with more score is chosen as the victor. Did you say rewards? Yes, that's the most important part of a war. Basically, there are 3 important rewards. First of all, you gain War XP for participation. The more score you've got, the larger amount. This is also increased if your nation wins that war. War XP can be used for many things, but its main purpose is honor. At the Officer of Portlax you can exchange it for XP, skill XP or honor points. Obviously, all three of those are limited, but fear not, because the other two war rewards require them too. Second, there is merit. From level 170 and on, you start gaining merit medals for reaching at least 100 personal score, up to 5 medals at 600 points. If you aren't familiar with that, check the video's description for a guide on merit system. Third, at level 200 you gain honor medal points. Once again, you can find a link in the video's description to make this one shorter and stay on point. There is also a small amount of money you gain based on your ranking to cover the expenses of war. That mainly applies to the winning nation. What are building points and towers? Building points are automatically generated for your nation based on how much of the map it's currently holding. These points are used for creating guardians when capturing a base or for building towers. Only players in a party can use those points. When you capture a base, you get a notification asking if you want to create a guardian or not. Of course, why wouldn't you want to? If there's no guardian, then only a weak barrier protects the base. But if your nation's building points are low and you don't want to spend your own money on it, it's sometimes worth skipping this. Towers are support structures. Every base has slots to build towers at. There's one in every small base, every medium has 3, and a large base has 4 in MC and 8 in TG. You simply interact with it and select which tower you want to build. For the duration of the building sequence, your character is vulnerable and cannot use any skills, so don't do that in the middle of an enemy wave. Resurrection towers allow defeated players to revive at the chosen spot. If there's no tower left, then they are revived slower and at the highest priority base. So having several of these towers built is a key to victory. Players are immune to damage for a short time upon resurrection. Warp towers allow you to teleport to any other warp tower on the map after a short delay. The rest of them either increase the stats of nearby allies, decrease them for nearby enemies, or even damage them. There's also a way to build towers without a specified spot for them. Portable towers can be built just about anywhere, but they only last a short duration and you need a tower panel that you can purchase in the lobby. What are Bringers and Guardians? I mentioned that Bringer and Guardian players don't have their names hidden. In every level category, one player of each nation is chosen as Stormbringer for Badass Blue or Luminosity Bringer for Lame Pink. This is decided by their score during the week. 7 of the highest are chosen and compared with the rest of the players. Player kill count also contributes to this. The one with the most gets chosen as Bringer for the next week. That includes a special title which has pretty awesome stats and makes your name visible to enemies. Additionally, in level 200 wars, after the Bringer is selected, one of each class in each nation goes through a similar process for being selected as Storm or Luminosity Guardian. The title for Guardians is slightly worse, but it also reveals your name to enemies in war zones. Bringers also gain the ability to have their shout displayed in the middle of the screen for all members of their nation on all channels. A word of warning here, if you are Bringer, don't abuse it. Its purpose is to call your nation to war and not to sell megaphone service. And people might report you for spamming if you forget about that. What about MC? MC is a different war map available at level 200 only. The main difference compared to TG is that this is 10 minutes shorter and it's got some score gain mechanics based on gold coins. Whenever you defeat an enemy player or kill a neutral coin guard, they drop some gold. A player would drop half of what he's carrying plus 1, and coin guardians always drop 5. Neutral guardians or coin guardians spawn periodically throughout the map marked with those icons. Their respawn time is 3 minutes and at each spot there's a couple of them. They can be attacked by both nations, so quite often it's possible to peacefully farm score for both nations, avoiding PvP entirely. Anyway, the point of gold coins is to collect them and deposit them in allied bases. Each allied base has those giant machines that can be interacted with, and after a short delay they can rid you of your coins. For each coin you deposit you gain 4 personal score and your nation gains 40 score, so actually it's pretty significant. The other notable difference compared to TG is that the medium and large bases are also protected by gates here, and that in the initial phase when the bases are still neutral, it's not the damage dominance that determines who takes it, but the last hit on Guardian. Guardians are also automatically created without the need to spend the nation's building points. Can you give me some tips on how to get more points? Absolutely, I'm gonna try sharing everything I can think of. First of all, I'd like to clear up one thing: how targeting works. There are 3 categories here: player, tower, and everything else. If your currently selected target is in one of those categories, you can deal damage to everything else in the same category that's within range, but other categories are unaffected. So for example, if you're attacking a neutral guardian or a gate, you won't deal damage to players even if they are standing right next to them. If you're attacking towers, you won't deal damage to players, neither to gates nor to guardians. And if you're attacking players, you won't deal damage to guardians, gates and towers. All of this is important because the more targets you hit, the more score you gain. There are plenty of places where you can benefit from that. Small legacy guardians can be lured together to hit 2 of them at once, or in MC they can be lured toward coin guardians to hit 3 of them. I've marked a few of those spots on these maps, and like I said, coin guardians spawn in pairs. It's worth noting that guardians of wealth have a shorter range, and guardians of memories have long range, so you should try to lure wealth to memories and not the other way around. Ranged classes have some advantages, especially in MC. Some skills have enough area of effect or range to hit both guardians and gates at the same time. The map isn't exactly symmetrical, so you may have to experiment a bit, but since guards, sages and signs and gates share the same category, it's really a paradise for archers in BM2 while being inside bases. Towers can also be built in close proximity at some bases, allowing you to hit 2 or even 3 of them with some skills. If you're strong enough, then attacking enemy players is probably the fastest way to gain score though, so you may want to keep resurrection towers alive and just farm the players who are AFK. If you aren't a ranged class, or if you aren't strong enough to farm in PvP, don't despair, there are still ways to easily gain some points. I mentioned the gold coins in MC type of wars. If whoever delivered the last hit to the player or guardian that dropped the coin does not pick them up for a short time, they are gonna be up for the grab. People often underestimate the coins or simply don't want to collect them for fear of dropping too many for enemies. Well, you can pick up after them and use those coins for your own points. Your nation is also going to thank you for that. And now for the best news, you don't even have to pay attention in wars to gain score. Like I mentioned earlier, you gain score for receiving damage too. So why not just let those super strong enemies farm some skills while you sit back and relax. All you have to do is click the resurrect button every now and then and just let them kill you. You can play other games or browse the internet or do whatever you want. This is also useful for members of the other nation because they also benefit from it. This works best, of course, if you have tons of health, so warriors and force shielders make the most of it. Another thing I'd like to mention is that all battle modes have 10 times increased cool times during wars. That means 5 minutes each. Therefore, it's worth using them as often as possible, and for as long as possible. If you're using a battle mode, try to avoid dying, and if your battle mode is nearing its end, always extend it with aura to gain more duration. Auras don't have their cool times increased, so you can use them more often if your SP allows it. There are some potions that are exclusive to wars. Those can be purchased from your guild's shop using AP and are quite powerful. Many people decide to use sword and magic at the same time simply because they are compatible with each other, and the less effective one still increases your critical damage. So if you're done with runes and have some AP to spare, it's useful to invest it into these potions to stack some of them up for later use. If you don't have enough of those though, you can obtain different potions from the chests that spawn whenever a base is occupied. All of these can really help you gain more score by dealing more damage. And speaking of potions, at the war shop, accessible by pressing the N button in the lobby or inside the field, you can buy health and mana potions as well as vital and spirit gears. Those allow you to quickly recover your health or SP in war. Spirit gear can be used without any limit, but vital gear can only be used if you don't deliver or receive attacks for a short while. While they may be expensive to spend your money on, it's usually worth investing into some of them to stay alive or to be able to use more battle modes until you get your desired score. And last but not least, there's a reason you have lots of people in a nation. Always try to team up with other players in a party because party buffs or debuffs on enemies make a significant difference when it comes to damage dealt or survival. Well, that's about it for the tips. If in the meantime I think of anything, I'm going to include that in a pinned comment, so feel free to check back from time to time. One last thing before we wrap this up. Somewhere at the beginning I mentioned the waiting list. If your nation has it and you are done with your score, then you should just press the select server button and join the war again. This is called relogging, and it allows your spot to be taken by someone who's currently in the lobby waiting to join. Be careful though, only 125 players of each nation can join, so if when you open the map you see a number close to that up here, don't relog. If you do, you will not be able to join the channel again and you lose all your rewards. You have to be present in the war channel when the war ends to gain the rewards. So that's about it. If you have any questions or you like to share your methods of farming in wars, don't hesitate to use the comments. Ahoy!